Ron, that was such a great introduction. Thank you. Yeah, just like Ron was saying, hey, we're going to talk about how we can enhance threat detection with our foundational model, Trellix Y. So I'm actually really excited to talk to you about this and how it actually works in your SOC. Now, in preparation for this webinar, we actually built this content specifically with you guys in mind, you and your industry. So we did a ton of research. I'm really excited to show you what we got today. I don't want to just throw out some random flashy tech terms. Really, what I'm going to be presenting on is just about how can we reduce burnout and catch those threats before they become really costly. So before we begin, my name is Jeff Meacham. I work here at Trellix as a global AWS solutions architect. I have my master's in cybersecurity. I recently published a book on cyber threat hunting. And before stepping into my most recent role, I was a senior technical trainer here. And I had a lot of fun with that role. I got to travel the world. I met with all sorts of industries on site. I had my boots on the ground. And I say this and I point this out because when I talk about these real world threats, it's because I've actually seen them. I've talked to our customers. I know the issues that they are dealing with. And honestly, thankfully, with how far our tech has come, we're able to solve a lot of these problems. I'm not doing the teaching gig anymore. I'm really here to help people put the correct solutions in place. So some background. Really, security today, it can't be reactive, right? We don't want to be part of the Avengers. We want to be more like the pre-Avengers or whatever. You guys need a tool that works before, during, and after an incident. So resilience, it isn't just about blocking, it's adapting across the entire attack lifecycle. So the cost of the breach doesn't break your business. Now, if you take a look in this slide, you can see that attackers, they're able to maintain a foothold in your environment for almost about 2 weeks before anyone notices. That's about 11 days of lateral movement, credential harvesting, data exfiltration. They're basically getting a full onboarding process inside of your environment. But that really happens because there's just not enough proactive threat hunting or visibility. And even after detection, you can see that it's taking 73 days on average to contain an incident. And that's a huge window for damage for that exfiltration, extortion, even follow-up attacks. So for those that are feeling brave, tell you what, put yourselves in my shoes and feel free to answer this in the chat, or this can be a rhetorical question, that's fine. Well, let's say you guys have a customer. They're telling you about this long reaction cycle of 73 days. And that just takes so much time, not only identifying that malicious activity, but also remediating it. Where's the problem lie? To me, part of it tells me that, hey, maybe they lack the manpower, right, to fully scope the issue. Maybe they lack the automation or playbooks or orchestration, and everything is hands-on, and maybe they just don't know how to do it. They have to do a lot of research for each alert that they get. Well, I'm going to tell you how we can solve all three of those issues here in just a moment. And, yeah, 73 days. Yes, we're pulling that data from a report. That's the average time. But even if your guys' company was doing 5, 6, 7 days to close this out, heck, even if it's 1 day, that breakout time for attackers, that time that we measure from them to jump from endpoint to endpoint to endpoint, it's about 90 minutes. And that is still much too long. And then the last thing I want to point out about this slide is that 57% of organizations, they have to raise their prices after a breach. And so think about that. The cost of poor security is literally getting passed on to the customer who might not appreciate those prices as much. So it's not necessarily just a tech problem. It becomes a brand and business issue at the same time. I mean, take a look at what happened with Target back in 2014 with the Heartbleed vulnerability. Again, that happened back in 2014. That company got hit. Credit card data was exfiltrated. And for a long time, nobody trusted Target after that, even though that patch had already been fixed, but they didn't trust it because they didn't want their credit cards to be stolen, even though that wasn't an issue anymore. That was patched. And so when we say that these data breaches affect brand awareness, we really mean it. Now, this map right here, this shows where malicious file detections are happening to your guys' industry in the financial sector. And what you're looking at here, it's live data. This is pulled straight from our Trellix Advanced Research Center. Now, each country's color, it represents detection volumes. And yeah, spoiler alert, the US and Australia, they're lit up like ransomware Christmas going on over here. But these numbers at the bottom, and I'm not going to go through all of these just for the sake of time, but I do want to point out over 26 million total detections. And keep in mind, that's not attempts. That's actual file detections happening in your guys' industry. This is what the threat activity looks like at sale. There's even 155,000 campaign detections, meaning these are coordinated, repeatable attacks. So this isn't just random noise. These are structured threats targeting your industry. All right, so what do these threats actually look like? I mean, they're not hypothetical threats. These are real ones, real breaches, real risks happening right now. And really the problem is these attackers, they're hitting it from every angle, from the supply chain to AI to regulation and coordinated infrastructure takedowns. These attackers, they're financially motivated. In fact, a 2024 report shows that 97% of US banks had breaches traced back to a third party. That's nearly every bank. And again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over all of these right here. You guys will get a copy of this. But the key takeaway that I want you to pull away from this is that the threat landscape, it's evolving faster than most organizations are prepared for, whether it's through your vendors, through generative AI, through broken oversight, or full-blown ecosystem compromises. The risk here is definitely real. So here's a typical dashboard for your SOC analyst. And so, yeah, you're looking at 76 high alerts, 318, 261. That's a lot of alerts. And they're all sitting here with varying levels of urgency. And let's be honest, as an analyst, are you going to really look at those low alerts and medium alerts before the critical? No, you're going to spend all your time looking at the critical and high alerts. Those low mediums, maybe they don't warrant your time. But the problem is the word critical is just one lens. If you're only watching out for red flashing lights, you're going to miss that stuff that builds up rather slowly, the odd behavior, the unusual login, the unusual process. That stuff doesn't yell, but it definitely whispers. So that's why context matters. It's not just about alert severity. It's about correlation, timing, lateral movement, identity misuse, chains of behavior. We're going to talk about how we approach all of this using Trellix Wise. So enough of that sad, scary stuff. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's talk about what gives me hope. Trellix Wise, the true nature of what I want to talk to you guys about today. So this is our AI-powered SecOps analyst who never takes a break, never misses a pattern, and it gets smarter with every alert. And just to be clear, this is not generic AI. This was specifically built off Amazon Bedrock, and we trained it on cybersecurity for your security operations. It speaks our language. It thinks in alerts, indicators, dwell time, and kill chains. And where TrellixWise really stands out is it doesn't just analyze the alerts, it will actually go out and investigate across your entire data lake. So I'm going to show you guys some really cool, some really crazy examples, but with this, you really did just hire your best analyst with a tool like this. Now, not only is it doing those investigations, it's also asking the right questions. It's pulling the right context, and it's showing what really matters to you guys. It's connecting the dots. It's understanding the cause, impact, and intent. That's how it's able to elevate detection and filter out that noise. And it actually pays attention. It's not just smart, but it's also trainable. So another really interesting thing about it is that it's able to adapt. So if your guys' team handles something one way, It's actually able to reference that and remember it. And if you want it to keep doing it that way, it can. And yeah, I forgot who mentioned this on the call, but it handles the boring stuff too. So it'll build out those compliance reports based on detection and response actions. So that way you're always ready for audits or regulators. And you'll see in that awesome little blue box, percentage of automated SOC workflows, 100%. Analyzing every alert, you got it. Compliance, handled. That's what we built. That's something I'm very excited to brag about today. So let's talk about that AI and how a lot of vendors, they're not using it quite like us. It kind of feels like a lot of platforms, like, I don't know, you guys go to different websites, you check it out. They're like, oh yeah, we use AI, but really they're like duct taping on a chat bot and they're like, that's our AI. Or you look at it and it's just making API calls out to ChatGPT. But if you guys are spending more time typing prompts than stopping the threats, then you're doing it wrong. And that's kind of what a lot of AI still expects you guys to do. They want you to do the heavy lifting, reading logs, decoding commands, asking the right questions. Well, Trellix wise, it doesn't wait. It already knows your guys' user behavior and analytics. It's already analyzed the alerts. It's created a baseline for you guys, and it's able to create its own alerts based off that. It's able to decode the execution of an encoded command line, identifies what scripts do. And one of the best parts is it already knows your guys' environment and your risk posture. And I'm going to show you guys an example of that here in a moment. But our approach really was, hey, we want this built for SecOps work, not just AI for the sake of AI, but an AI that actually makes you faster, sharper, and more effective at catching threats. So take this a step further. Okay, so maybe some companies are using AI, and maybe it is already working kind of well. But is it telling the whole story? Alert triage, it's not just about detection. It's also about context. So most tools, they'll give you what the detection engine knew at the moment. But the real investigation, as you guys know, doesn't necessarily stops there. If your tool only looks at the network, well, it's like you're trying to solve a mystery by only reading one chapter of a book. So here you can see that we have a network alert, which wasn't generated by the endpoint. It was caught by Smart Vision, and then it flagged odd LDAP, an odd LDAP query. But what the AI is doing here is it's saying, all right, I see something odd in the network. What's going on in the endpoint? Or even the other way around. What's happening in the endpoint? Okay, how did the attacker actually get in? Are there any weird network callouts or any weird DNS traffic that's happening here? So when you combine endpoint with network, data, cloud, and third-party telemetry, that's when you can finally tell the whole story. And guys, this is really what is the difference between detection and investigation. Trellix is pulling this data across your entire stack, endpoint, network, cloud, and even your collaboration tools. So you're not just piecing it together through blind spots. I mean, if your EDR is your flashlight, the full context is going to be your night vision. It's not just what you can see. It's also what's happening outside of that beam. And really, that's what gives our AI the edge. It doesn't just know what happened, it knows what's happening around it. And that's how you guys are able to catch what other people miss. All right, and then just to reiterate, Trellix-wise, it doesn't just search for information. It's already been trained on thousands of real-world analyst decisions, and it'll be learning off your environment too, your unique vanilla baseline environment. It already knows the task. It understands the situation, and it selects the best tools and methods to solve the problem on its own. I mean, it's kind of like this image. If that Trellix-wise was this robot, hey, it's already got that full blueprint. It's got that full toolbox. It's not guessing. It already knows what tool to grab based on the job in front of it. And really, the real value here is time and accuracy. Your guys' team doesn't need to start from scratch. Our robot, our Trellix-wise, it already has those instructions and it knows how to follow them. This isn't just automation, it's decision-making that reflects how real analysts work, only more faster, more consistent, and it's always improving. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few examples of that. So most tools, they respond to alerts using rules that were written in advance. Well, Trellix Wise is different. It builds investigations in real time, even for alerts it's never seen before. Any alert, even one that's just a 0-day attack. And then it uses the guidance framework to figure out, okay, what kind of threat might this be? And then it selects the best investigative approach. From there, it can launch targeted queries to gather additional evidence from that full stack that it's talking about without even needing a human to step in. It's analyzing that full context. Like, remember that correlation we had from the alert from the network? But what was happening on the endpoint? If the activity looks critical, then hey, it doesn't stop, it moves to action. That could mean, hey, it's going to create a case, it's going to escalate this kind of alert or remediate it for you immediately. Now, with that, I said that it can escalate cases, and that's kind of an interesting idea because when we think of like, I don't know, phishing attacks, that's a medium to high alert, right? But what if it happened to our CEO's endpoint or upper management? Then maybe in that case, it should be escalated to something more critical. And so the AI will even recognize people, their job roles, and if it has to escalate that kind of alert. All right, you guys might be thinking at this point, okay, but what about hallucinations? How can you trust it? That's actually very interesting. On Ars Technica, I read a story where this law firm, they were using ChatGPT, nothing against ChatGPT, but it did make up a case which they submitted to a judge as a reference. That was a really weird hallucination. Well, what's very nice about Trellix Wise and how we're able to avoid that, and there's several ways that we avoid it. One of them I'll tell you now, and then a few more in a couple more slides. But one way that we're able to avoid hallucinations is it actually provides you guys with a full audit trail of what happened, what was found, and why that decision was made. So you'll see all the events it looked at, the alert it identified, and how it made that correlation. So there are no hallucinations, and it has the evidence to back it up. All right, well, how good are the actual investigations themselves? Well, here's an alert that Trellix Wise was looking at specifically, one that was involving PowerShell. So this is a methodology alert. That means this behavior matches known attacker techniques, like using PowerShell to download files. Well, there's a problem with that, though, right? If we want an alert every time PowerShell is ran, we're going to get a lot of false positives because PowerShell is used in a lot of legitimate environments. So the question isn't necessarily, did PowerShell run? The question is, was this use of PowerShell malicious? Or it's, what is the context? And it's that context that is key. So again, Trellix Wise, it automatically pulls in that surrounding data, who ran it, where it ran, what files or commands were executed. And we are able to get the process path, the user, the command line arguments, and even links to known threat techniques from MITRE and the community. And so it'll map out that technique, which helps the analyst and even Trellix Wise itself, and help it understand where this behavior fits in the broader kill chain. Guys, I don't want to say Star Trek is real, but if it was real, here it is right now. So we're not just alerting, we're kicking off that investigation. Trellix Wise doesn't wait for you guys to dig in manually. It automatically is evaluating this behavior in context to help answer that one question that really matters. Is this a threat I have to act on? So building off that, here's where Trellix Wise is showing real intelligence, not just automation, but actual understanding of the environment. So this alert right here, it was triggered by a long base64 encoded string PowerShell command. That's typically pretty suspicious, but it's not always malicious, right? In this case, the AI didn't just flag it, it actually decoded it for us, and then it said, oh, this is actually activity from the Nessus agent. And it understood that this was expected behavior from this known security tool. I mean, most systems and myself, to be honest, I'd be like, PowerShell, base64, yeah, that's definitely going to be bad. This is something I need to investigate. But Trellix Wise, it went a step further for me. It interpreted the content It identified the metadata and it understood the intent. And really, this is the moment where Gen AI goes beyond what a human can do at all. Like a traditional analyst, you'd have to copy the string, you'd have to decode it, investigate the agent, and correlate the plugin info. Trellix wise, it did it in seconds, and it made the right call. This is how you guys reduce false positives without increasing risk. It's not about ignoring those alerts. It's about actually understanding what they mean.
Hey, Jeff. So Jeff, we've got about 2 minutes, so if you could just manage your time appropriately, okay?
Oh, yeah. That sounds great. Yeah, so again, right here, it was able to decode the command. We didn't just spot the behavior. It went ahead and analyzed the context and then told us not to escalate it. Here is another example where it identified a legitimate tool where it's used in an everyday use case. In this case, it was being used, though, maliciously to download files, especially malware. That's a red flag, and Trellix Wise was able to identify that. It knew the difference. So how quick is it, though? Well, here you can see that it reviewed and correlated 33 events to this alert. It wasn't just one event or log that triggered it. Again, it's all about that context. So it looked at 33 events. And right here it says, hey, I saved the analyst 3 minutes on this alert by going, reading all the event logs and attaching it to this. Well, tie over my shoulder, I don't believe that number because it would take me about 3 minutes just to read this slide itself. And so for it to say, oh yeah, I saved about 3 minutes or so, no, this is saving you so much more time than just that. Now, this is your view as a user. So here you're able to see this was created by Trellix Wise. You get a great summary. It identifies the email, what was executed. It gives you recommended actions such as, hey, you need to isolate this user account and then contain that endpoint. So it doesn't just suggest blocking the file. It recognizes patterns and consistencies across your environment. It's all about quality. Now, even with that, you could say, hey, we were talking about how phishing was a medium high alert. I always want them to be critical. You can communicate with the AI just like you would with ChatGPT. In this case, the customer, they were getting too many alerts and suspicious alerts in the normal environment, but they're like, oh no, our environment expects that. So they were able to communicate with Trellix Wise, and you can see the amount of alerts went down. And again, one of the biggest strengths is it learns from you. Every time a case is closed, the decision, the reasoning behind it, the AI learns, and it's able to implement that faster and help save you guys even more time in the future. So what really sets it apart is it doesn't just investigate alerts. It learns from how you investigate them. All right, so this is one of the most important slides that I show you guys. This is one I really need you to take home is, do we use customer data to train models? Well, companies like CrowdStrike, nothing against them or anything, but this is posted on their actual website. They say, hey, it's a foundational element of how their Falcon platform evolves and performs over time. So they collect personal information, both online and in-person interactions. Now, for us, we have that capability to use telemetry through the DTI cloud for insights, but that is completely optional, even in tools like the NX. However, even then, we don't train our AI models on your data. The answer to this question is a strong, resounding no. The AI has already been trained. We don't need to train it anymore. Now, it's going to learn from your environment. You'll train it a little bit. But in order to help our customers to the best of their ability, we cannot take your data. If we were to take your data, it'd hallucinate like crazy. It'd be like, yeah, there's a Ron in this environment. Go talk to Ron. And it's like, there's no Ron in this environment. So that data, it's yours. We don't want that data. We don't need that data. That data is all of yours. Then right here, this is just showing, hey, this is a great example of how Trellix Wise is powered by Helix Connect, our Gen AI agent. So that way we are able to look across the environment and then bring that back to you guys. Now, I do have just one more slide that I want to share with you really quick. I want you guys to come party with us. If you're in DC or Philadelphia, living there or visiting in the next few weeks, please scan these barcodes and register for these events. And even then, again, this will be shared with you guys, so you'll be able to scan it then. Next week, I'll be in DC, and then you can come to the AWS Summit and eat some really good food with us. Or if you're at the AWS Reinforce, come by our booth, win the PlayStation 5. I need to talk to people about video games, so it'd be a win-win. And hey, even if you didn't win the PlayStation 5, come by for drinks afterwards, and we'll still talk about video games and eat delicious snacks. And lastly, we do have that Gen AI symposium in DC where you guys could come and learn more about the age of AI and how to secure your environment. Here's my email. Go ahead, take a screenshot of this, or I'll put this in the chat. But if you guys are interested, I will give you access to our Helix Connect platform with Trellix Wise. So you can go in, you can kick the tires, or if you guys got more questions for me, please send them my way. I'm always more than happy to receive them and answer them. I did see the chat going off, so as the next person is talking, you might see me posting some answers in there. Just wanted to get through my slide deck, but don't worry, you're not forgotten. And that is all I have for you guys. So if you have questions, post them in the chat, answer, send me an email, or register for one of those events, and I'll be more than happy to meet you guys in person. Thanks, Ron. Passing it back to you.